Welcome to the Brain Soul Success Show, where we learn, explore, and create your powerful positive healing for life. I'm your host, Louise Schwartzwalter. I'm the creator of a 5-part mind, body, soul methodology that clears the subconscious blocks to success. From engaging transformational interviews, brain soul success stories, and the secrets shared by brain and spiritual experts, you will reconnect, revitalize, and transform your powerful life. It's time for you. Well, welcome everybody. This is Louise Schwartzwalter with the Brain Soul Success Show, and I am here with my good friend Leah Lund. And Leah and I share the same path, that we were interested in the brain. We work with people and coach on a deep level and intimate level with people. And wow, I'm so excited to have this opportunity to share with you today, Leah. You've done so many amazing things, and when you sent me your bio, I'm like, I know a little bit about you, but I'm like, wow, I know more now. So I want to share this with our audience. You're the founder of the One Whole Health offering coaching, retreats, and I Am Vibrant Girls Weekend Getaways that help you reboot your brain and reprogram that subconscious, right? For clarity, capacity, and courage to be your true self. I'll be asking you about that here in a minute and go into a little deeper, right? And then you've also done things with Neuro Nutrients, and you're a hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapist, holistic coach, and you've created this amazing method called the One Whole Health method, which actually blends neuroscience, neuro nutrition, energy psychology, and other techniques to help people feel happy and confident and content and find that freedom from anxiety and overwhelm and food issues. Wow, you're doing such good work. Depression, emotional eating, cravings, low energy, insomnia, pain, and burnout. You've also been involved with laughter yoga. You've been on podcasts. You've been on TV series, right? The Neuro Nutrient Therapy Institute. You've been involved in. I know that you've done speaking. You've done a lot of speaking. You're just completely inspirational, and I love you, and this is so exciting. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Louise, I feel the same way. I love you, so I'm thrilled to be here, and I just feel the energy of it already, the collaboration, and so thank you. And thank you for putting this out in the world, brain and soul. If I had to choose, I couldn't, right? Because they're so integral to us. I think they are our two sources of intelligence, basically. And so I love what you do and how you combine it and everything that you're putting out there as well.
No, thank
you. So
it's
basically a love fest.
Yeah, it is. So you listening today, it is a love fest for sure. We were putting that energy out to all of you, as we have this conversation. What actually did get you first interested in the brain? How did you become interested?
Well, I grew up on a farm in North Dakota that my great-grandfather built the house on farm. In the house my parents still live in currently.
Wow.
And so I had a definite sense of the energetic field out there through people and through animals. I lived in a very quiet place. My friends were all our animals. Some of them were domesticated, some of them were our livestock, and some of them were just the animals running across the brain. They were all my friends, and I was really connected to that energy. And so did I call it a brain? No, not at that young age, but I knew the intelligence within, like the intuitive intelligence. I saw when I was, I think, around 9 or 10 years old, my cat came over and meowed at me and called me over to follow her when she then laid down and gave birth to her kittens. And I kid you not, like she came and got me
wow.
as a child. And I got to watch, and nobody was around. My parents didn't know, like no one was there except me and her soon to be 4 kittens. Wow. So I had that going on in my young life. And then I also had other side to the brain that was the darker and a little bit more scary side to the brain. And that was my grandmother, who I loved dearly. We lived on the same farm as my grandparents, and it was a family farming business and all of that. But my grandmother definitely suffered from anxiety and depression. We didn't call it that, it was kind of that situation, but she also had diabetes, and her blood sugar would go up and down, and sometimes it would put her in a really extreme mood. Sometimes it would put her in the hospital. And by the time I was 9, she had such a fear of being alone that by the time I was 9 on a farm, everybody has a job, right? Everybody contributes somehow. And my job was really to be with her. So in a way, I was kind of her babysitter. And sometimes it looked like she was mine, and she would ask me to play a song on the piano. I would play Somewhere My Love, Dr. Zhivago. That was her favorite song. So I learned it. And, she'd have cookies for me and lemonade. So sometimes it looked as it should. And then other times she would slip into her fear about what were my parents and her husband, my grandfather, doing out in the field. And she had this fear about him being injured out in the field due to some past stuff. So I realize this is kind of a long answer to your question, but what it really instilled in me, watching her go through the fear and the panic, so much so to the point that one time as a 9-year-old, I even drove her. I got in her car and drove her out to see that my grandfather was okay.
Wow.
Because he was inconsolable, and I didn't know what to do. So I also had this understanding that something wasn't right with her brain. And I had this fear that what if I have it too? Like, she's my blood, she's my family, what if I have it too? And as I grew up, as I went through high school, as I went through college, as I went into a corporate career as a young adult, because I suffered from anxiety, and now I know pyroluria and MTHFR gene SNP, and now I have more explanations, but I didn't then. And I just saw myself having those moments of complete panic and those moments of social anxiety. And so for my young life, I really feared that whatever it was grandma had, I had it too. So I had to go figuring out what that was, right? And for me, it took a while, and you can interject and I'll tell you more, but that's what got me interested in the brain. Like, partially I knew it was a miracle and incredible part of us. And then part of me was afraid and saw the darkest part of it and didn't understand it and was worried it was happening to me too.
It was happening to you. So that was kind of a little bit of a light bulb moment, was really looking back on your grandmother and then knowing that you needed to find those answers for you and your own health and your family's health. And you speak about neurotransmitter depletion and neuro nutrition. Tell us what when you say neuro nutrition, is that just supplements for the brain? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because this really was a huge turning point for me. When I first went to a conference, it was actually for psychotherapists. I was not one. It is by the grace of spirit that I was even given a ticket in because I just, and I could never find the exact conference again online. So that's a little woo. Also, but I got in, I got a ticket, I went to it, and it was all for psychotherapists, and I was not a psychotherapist. And it was the kind of conference where you pick your breakouts, right? You pick your topics. And there was one that said nutritional psychology. And I just went, what? Like, could this be about food? Could this be about nutrients? All of these things I've been afraid of and I've been feeling, could this really be about that? And I learned through that, and then through eventually studying with the Neuro Nutrient Therapy Institute up in Northern California, I learned, yes, it absolutely can. So what that means, we have four main categories and types of neurotransmitter that are largely responsible for how we feel in general, whether that's happy, whether that's energetic, whether that is satisfied with ourselves, whether that's calm, lots of different things. And when our brain doesn't have the nutrition that it needs, for a lot of reasons, sometimes genetic, sometimes our diet, sometimes absorption of our good diet, sometimes stress, hello, right? Ding, ding.
Right.
And other reasons, we get depleted in these neurochemicals, things like serotonin, dopamine, endorphin, GABA. And when you're depleted, you will have a whole host of symptoms that sometimes have been there your whole life. In my case, they were, and sometimes feel like just your personality, even introvert, extrovert, focus and attention. So many things that I could get into, but we'll talk about that later. But finding that out was a huge light bulb for me, because what I also learned then when I started to study it and when eventually went on to be certified as a neuronutrient therapist is that you can restore these levels by helping the brain catch up, helping the brain not only depend on what you're eating, but helping it catch up in its production of these neurochemicals with the use of targeted amino acid therapy, which is another term for neuronutrition.
Okay, so neuronutrition is amino acid therapy mostly. Okay,
Mostly, yeah.
Because I have I do it two different ways. I have my own brain products that we created, and I put frequency in them.
Ooh.
So I use biofeedback frequency, and I put a whole program together called Beautiful Balanced Brain to do what you're describing with supplements. I have supplements too, but I do it with frequency. So I'm balancing the GABA, the endorphins, the serotonin, the dopamine, so people can get back into balance and that brain can work better. So we know, and we hope, we're sharing this with all of you out there, that when that's off, all that means is it's out of balance. And there's ways to get it back in balance, whether you're taking some neuro nutrition and working with Leah on that, or whether you're doing some biofeedback. There's a lot of ways to sort of get in and change it. I guess that's the message too, right? We'd like to share with everybody is let's find the way that works for you.
And I would say, don't think either or, should I do neuronutrition or should I do frequency? Both, right?
Both.
Definitely
exactly.
both.
I was, like we're a puzzle. Our bodies are a puzzle, and we want to find what's going to work for you. And, and you might need some of this and some of this and some of this, and somebody else might need just this and this, or just this.
Yeah, we are mind, body, and spirit. And I mean, there are billion-dollar businesses. The weight loss industry is a prime example of an isolated approach, like a single solution approach to things. And sometimes we get lucky and that works, right? That one thing we do, but not that often. The most success I've ever seen, and I'm sure you would say the same, Louise, is when you've integrated all of those things. You take care of the physical vehicle that we're here with. Understand your own mind, because it's part of being human. Understand energy and the frequency and the interaction with the field, and approach that systematically. There are techniques, which I know you teach, to optimize that. And then there's soul, there's higher spirit, and it takes all of it really to get us whole and happy and optimized and feeling and doing our best.
Yes, we definitely are on the same page there, because I do body, mind, spirit, field. It's all of it, isn't it? Well, tell us about, you help women actually build clarity and capacity and courage. So you have programs for that. What do you mean by that, and why is that so important? Those 3 C's, I guess: clarity, capacity, courage.
3 C's. This was my journey, and this was the journey of every woman I've worked with, hundreds, if not thousands now. One Whole Health, my company, we're celebrating our birthday in February, which is 10 years. So, and when I thought about what is the journey, we have a 5-step method of that, but it really comes down to those 3 C's, because the first is clarity. And that means both presence, mental clarity, intentional living presence where you are, clarity to what you want, clarity to what's happening around you, clarity to how it's affecting you. And I'm sure the viewers, and I know, Louise, you've seen many examples of this, of that moment of clarity, where it's oh, I've been going down that path when I meant to be going down that path the whole time. And that's a moment of brilliance, I think. I mean, I love that moment, because it really helps us align with the vibration we want to be putting out, and that feels best to us, most importantly, and the vibration that attracts and all of that. So So clarity first. You have to have that desire comes into clarity, I think, and vision for the future. And then there's capacity, because you can have all that clarity, and then if something takes you out, somebody in your family questions what you're doing. I have a client going through that right now. And it's like that passive aggressive tension of, oh, you think you're so clear now, right? Blah, 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 whatever it is. Or you have a down day because of something like neurotransmitter depletion, or it's a dark, cloudy day, or whatever can get in the way. If you don't have the emotional capacity to overcome those obstacles, then you put your clarity on the back burner, right? Anybody would, because it feels too hard. It feels too difficult. It feels like maybe that was even just my imagination. So the capacity is really the emotional resilience to stick to your focus, stick to your authentic purpose, stick to your passion, no matter what comes at you. Be able to feel your own emotions. I know I don't have to tell you how often women, especially, I think, stuff our emotions, don't feel them, minimize them, and then are afraid of them when they come up. It's like, well, what do I do with that? So capacity is really being able to feel them, appreciate them, release them, act independently of them. So to me, emotional capacity comes between when you feel how you feel and what you decide to do about it, right? And the more you can stretch that time between when you feel something and you respond versus when you feel something and you react, just really opens up intentional living. And then you can see what you really dream and desire for your life.
That's
and
beautiful.
that will always take courage. Always there will be a point where it was all in theory. Everything that I just said there will be all in theory, and then it comes time to action. And so it's really important for me when I'm working with someone to also get to the state of action and see that through. And that takes the courage and the confidence, really. But it's a muscle that can be worked out. It's a skill that can be practiced, and the clarity and the capacity help you get there.
Awesome. I love how you put all that. I love the words around that. Yeah, that was really beautifully said. So, when you work with people and you're taking them through that process, and you're getting them to that point of action, give me some examples, of some transformations that you have, witnessed, helped people with.
Yeah. So the first, I'm going to go with what popped in my mind first, is a client I'm working with right now. And we started this journey over food and anxiety, depression, right?
Okay.
So she kind of came in for the physical, which a lot of times happens because that feels more tangible. It's like, okay,
Right.
I know I have a problem with cravings and eating things that I don't want to be eating. And then I also know that I feel anxious and depressed and I don't know what to do.
Okay.
And we've unpacked the layers. Of course we did. The neuro nutrition for me is just, it's so prevalent. 85% of people, for example, in the US are low in serotonin, maybe higher. I think that's probably a low estimate. So that seems like a no-brainer to me, like just get that leveled out physically so that then you can move on to the rest of things. And she did. And now we're into her relationship with her mother, and she is learning how to stay true to her truth, her clarity, what she wants for her life. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers can relate to when you start to grow and it's almost like everybody else in your life is jealous, or there's that energy of, oh, you think you're, all that now, right? Because you're growing, you're expanding, and we're not, and they don't mean that. And I think the biggest breakthrough that I've seen for her in capacity right now is understanding, meet them where they are, and remember they don't, whether it's her mother or her brother or her husband, and there's a lot in her case, there's a lot of family members that don't understand her personal growth. And I think the breakthrough for her has been understanding that they don't understand, understanding that they have no idea what she is doing, and having some compassion for the fact that, they're where they are on their journey, and this all feels threatening to them, and it feels a little bit like the world is getting turned upside down, because we all get in patterns of relationship with each other, right? Our ego minds
Yes, get in the
talk
way.
with each other and get in the way and learn how to be with each other. And now she's shaken it up for generations, mother, hers, even her children. And
Sure.
so the ability, so that's to me a huge example of capacity, is that she is now understanding to get upset with them because they're where they were all along. She's growing.
Exactly.
And he
You know,
gets
the word that
to
comes to
handle that
mind.
different.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind as you're saying that, Leah, to me is acceptance.
Yeah,
You know, so
for
I
sure.
often see that healing is much more about acceptance than forgiveness. Certainly forgiveness is a part of it, but she's now accepting where they're at and where she's at. And so you can be at peace with it. So the judgment is gone.
Yeah.
And then it's about releasing the other people's energy out of your own field, staying in your lane and on your path, and hopefully maybe modeling some things so that they want to come up here with her too, eventually,
Yeah.
and then also there's tension she has to, between them, I'm sure, has to navigate. And again, the way
Yeah.
to do that is just to accept we're on our own journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this will come as no surprise to you. She's lost over 20 pounds now.
that's awesome.
She's under 200 for the first time since her third child was born over a decade ago.
Uh-huh.
And what's restored for her is the belief that her body can even lose weight, because she'd really come to the conclusion it was never going to happen. After 10
So,
years, you come to that conclusion, right? I
right.
mean, it's understandable. And now she's so excited and fired up because, she's actually seeing that progress too. And it's all related. And it goes
Of
back to our
course.
mind, body, spirit, it's all related.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So congratulate yourself on doing such great work with her, and you can tell she's a beautiful soul like you. And isn't that so fun getting to attract these amazing people in her life? And I know I learn from all of the people that I work with. They're my teachers as much as I am a teacher,
Yeah.
and it's that interaction, it's that connection,
Yeah.
that makes everything so much richer. That's why I like this kind of format too, is we learn through listening, to conversation. It's about the story, it's our story. And I know you're kind of rewriting your story a little bit right now too, as you go through something. And I usually like to ask Leah, what challenges have you come to in your life, either overcoming or working on, or have overcome in the past? And we started talking before we even started our recording here, that you're on a journey right now too. Share with us, I feel like you're doing such a great job on this journey, and that it's such an up leveling for you. So share with my audience here, what's been your challenge lately, in
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah, I would be happy to. And, had we talked more than couple months ago, I would be telling that challenge, right? That challenge of the past. Which
Uh-huh.
is a really good point, I think, that there's levels and layers always.
Yeah.
And so, my most recent challenge is that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I call it the bump. The moment that I was given the diagnosis, I felt like, well, I felt fear in that moment, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I also felt like I've been training for this. I've been training for this for close to 2 decades now. I've been training for mindset. I know that our mindset affects everything. So, okay, here's this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
The truth of, so I have a lump that I call the bump. I
Okay.
have the bump in my breast,
Mm-hmm.
and I found out about it about 4 or 5 months ago now.
Okay.
But let me clarify. I found out that it was cancerous then. I've actually had this bump for about 5 years. And
Okay.
5 years ago, when it was there, I felt it. I went for an ultrasound. I felt a lot of pressure to just go into the medical conveyor belt of things and
Mm-hmm.
do biopsy and just go that route. And yet at the same time, they were saying there's a 5% or less chance that it's cancerous. So and I also knew knowledge, and I just want this to be out there. I know we don't have time to go deep on it, but biopsies have been shown oftentimes to spread cancer because there's an isolated collection of cells and you puncture it. Basically, you puncture a hole in it. So knowing that 5 years ago, I said for a 5% or less chance, that's not something I'm willing to do. And so I've been monitoring it ever since with thermal imaging and other things. And a few months ago, it did come back as cancerous. And I went into about 24 hours, and that's not an exaggeration. And I think it's pretty accurate. 24 hours of feeling really disappointed because I am a holistic health coach, right? So how can I have cancer? And disappointed that I hadn't served my body. Somebody asked me, "Oh, are you disappointed?" "Oh, I get it. You're disappointed in your body." And I said, "No, I'm not disappointed in my body. Our bodies are amazing. They're miracles. They withstand a lot. I'm disappointed that somehow I must have let it down by what I did or didn't do, but that in itself is a pattern of thinking and blame, right? But so all that was about a 24-hour period. And then I said, this is what is, and let me research how I want to handle it. I was a little bit removed. Back 5 years ago, I was up on it. I was studying. I was like, okay, there's this bump here. What am I going to do? 5 years later, I hadn't spent a whole lot of time in that research. So I would say for anybody with any diagnosis that is scary, the first thing is like quiet the noise. Quiet the noise around you. Get really still. Meditate, listen to higher power, and do your own research and find your own best path. And for me, it's been alternative therapy. So I did not do the recommended lumpectomy. I've not done the recommended radiation. I believe it's really been an opportunity to affirm things that I've believed for a long time, except now they were tested in a pretty big way. But they all held true for me. And that is that I know the body can heal itself. I know that our thinking, one of the first things I did in those first few days is pull out Louise Hay and read again. You will be healed when you release the mental pattern that created the problem.
Yes.
And that just, yep. That's exactly right.
You've done a beautiful job. I mean, you're really doing a great job. And yeah, sometimes I do think that happens with, I have a lot of natural health professional friends.
Sure.
And just because we're in the field doesn't mean you don't get sick or have some kind of test. And I sometimes feel like those tests are there for a reason, because it's like the old energy is spinning out as you up level. And so all it is an opportunity, like you said, to practice your tools, practice what you learned. And then the practice that you go through with what you're doing on this amazing journey and path now is just going to be there to help other people in a different way too.
I believe that fully. I really do. I can actually say that I feel like it's happening for me. And that feels pretty good to be able to mean that.
I can feel the sincerity in that too, and the authenticity. So, more power to you, Leah. Because it really is. It's really, it's a journey. I remember when I was super sick, and then I had gotten better, and then, and then I had another health little thing come up, and then another one come up, and I was just like, after a while, I was actually kind of having a talk with God, and I was going, all right, I don't think I need to be an example anymore. I think we're done with this. I think I can help people now at a level I don't really need anymore. And even though I had that conversation, I understand the purpose. There was a purpose in all of that. And so, one
of my resistances that still comes up sometimes that maybe you or maybe viewers can relate to is the time thing. I don't have enough time. Is there enough time? Well, talk about like adding 4 hours to my day right now of devices and things, because I'm using light therapy and sound therapy and, coffee enemas and this and that.
Right. So you're
It's definitely, helping me stretch my time and make my priorities and really heal that whole concept of time scarcity. And that may be the purpose. I won't know, I don't think, for a while yet exactly what it was I was breaking through, but I've done ancestral work and I see things I'm breaking through there. My whole life, I felt like there was trauma I carried that was not my own, because for the most part, I had, a really good upbringing. If anything, there was a little lack of emotional conversation about how our emotions feel and what to do about them. But I think anybody probably my age would say that about their upbringing, that wasn't plus we're Scandinavian heritage. And so stoic kind of family conversation, but always love, always hugs, all of that. But the point to me is I'm breaking through that. I'm breaking through ancestral things. I'm breaking through mental patterns. I'm breaking through time scarcity. And I really feel like I was training for it. And now it's like next level. I'm kind of going through the practical exam.
Yeah, the practical exam. The next level because we heal in layers, don't we? Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Well, it would actually be really fun to do a brain soul thing with you sometime. I want to do that.
I would love that.
Because I don't know, because you're pretty clear, but who knows what we might find. What's coming for me as you're talking is that, and as brain people, you probably already know this work, but Dr. Hamer discovered trauma causes illness, and he was a German doctor that worked with breast cancer patients and other cancers, and put together big charts, and they're online. It's HAMER, Hamer New Medicine. So how he discovered that was his son was shot at 17 and died, and 3 months later he ended up with testicular cancer. And he was perfectly healthy before that. So he said to himself, it must be the trauma that caused this illness. So he started treating all of his patients for trauma, just like you've done the ancestral work and the trauma, right? And when he did that, their cancer would go away. So what he did, though, was fascinating to me, is he took pictures of their brains, and he would find little lesions in different parts of the brain, which was representative of a specific trauma. So like, let's say esophageal cancer was unable to swallow a morsel. So he would call that like the it stinks moment or the trauma moment.
Yeah.
And I'm sure even as you look at your own healing and the work that you've done, there's probably some of that. And maybe, I don't know if there's more, but I know we all have those, whether or not we have dis-ease or not. We have these little lesions, in the brain. That are really just past traumas, and they can be something that you can't even remember.
Yeah, for sure. And all the ACE score work, shows us this. It shows susceptibility from adverse childhood experiences, susceptibility for illness, for addiction, for divorce, for, difficulty with relationship, all of these things. And here's the thing, that as a person who always, if I go back to like my brain story from early on, my saving grace about my brain when I was confused of, intuition and then the family curse maybe that I thought was following me, was that I was always really smart. And I was known for that, and I got really good grades, and, that was my thing. I was brain E, or could have been called that, but, this is not intellectual. You can't think your way out of this stuff.
No.
Right?
No.
So it's of great value, coming back again to just the holistic nature. It's of great value to explore it all. Energetic, past life through regression, which I've done, and as in the hypnotherapy I do, that's part of it. Because just because you think something shouldn't be affecting you now doesn't mean it's not affecting you now.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, well, you've done some great work. You're going to be just fine. This is just the journey and getting a higher spiritual level. Just we're up leveling. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're up leveling. And it sounds like now, you've got a little protocol that you're doing, it's taking a little time and
Yeah.
yeah, we would love to know how you're working on the time frame mindset piece. Because I realize that I often do say, I'm running out of time or I have no time and I need to nip that one in the bud. Um, you
I
know?
think, yeah, I think the clearest strategy, and like a lot of things, and you'll relate, I'm pretty sure, is, we can teach it and then we get reminded of it again ourselves. But the clearest thing is the really only time management skill, other than maybe prioritize, align your time with your priorities and maybe delegate. But the best time management skill is presence in the moment with what you're doing. Don't be thinking about the next thing that you have to do. While you're doing something. So I have all of these different therapies now added to my day, and I'm going for IVs and I'm doing coffee enemas, and I actually I had a moment the other day with my husband, because it also affects our schedule, where it's like, you can't rush a coffee enema, honey. So
Right.
if I'm not done, I'm not done.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, but
Mhm.
but I can't leave yet, even though I said I'd be ready to leave at 9 a.m. Like, I'm sorry.
Right.
And there's not a thing I can do about it. So it really is presence, and it really is allowance and acceptance that that you mentioned early.
Mhm.
And it is priority, what's important to me most today. And like any other kind of time management training that I've done, what I see happening is the fluff kind of falls out. The busyness, the busy stuff that I was doing
Mhm.
that really didn't have impact, or, was overthinking things, or was indecision, was waffling back and forth. Should I do this? Should I not do that? Now there's just only time for forward action. There's only time for yes. Yes. There's no time for maybe. There's only time for, okay, yes, here's what I'm doing, or just no altogether. Like, no, that's not fitting in the day any way, shape, or form. Um, there's no maybe. There's yes or no, and then like going forward.
Do you realize how profound that is? I mean, that's such a huge point,
Yeah.
and huge learning. I mean, to stay in the present, and you're like said, it's just about now. It's now.
Yeah.
It's now. It's yes or no. So it helps us make those decisions, doesn't it?
It
So
really
that's
does.
kind of one of the teachers in this for you, isn't it?
Definitely.
Is teaching you
Definitely.
that decision making. Yeah,
Yeah.
and moving forward. Very, very cool. If you were gonna like share with us one tip that you've learned about either working with people or even something from your journey now, that you want to leave our audience with today, you've done such a thank you for all of this. This has been just an amazing discussion. What would that one tip be?
The tip I would have is to understand that you are the powerful creator of your life. And you're really creating, whether you know it or not. You're either creating by default or you're creating intentionally. And we all attract what we feel, number one.
Mm-hmm.
If that statement sounds huge, I don't know where to begin. What do you mean? I didn't want to create that. This is happening. And then the guilt and all that stuff that can come with it. Wipe all that away and just know in any moment you can have a choose over, what I call it, instead of a do over. It's a choose over. You can have a choose, and you can choose how you feel right now. And you can find one thing to feel good about, and you don't even have to solve or fix all the other stuff. You just choose to feel good now, and that changes your projection, the trajectory. It changes how you feel in the moment, and it changes what you attract. And life truly is meant to be enjoyed. And we really are designed to feel good. And if you're not resistant to a choice, and you are that powerful creator who can make the choice in the next moment, and then the moment after that, and then the moment after that, and then the moment after that, and that's all the further out ahead that you even have to think about it, is this moment.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. We want to leave our audience with that. That was so amazing. Thank you so much, Leah. Tell us how we can get in touch with you, to our audience here. And I think you might have had do you have a free gift we have
I
here?
do, yeah. So you can get in touch with me at onewholehealth.com, and that's one spelled out ONE, wholehealth.com. I'm
Okay.
also on all social media, either by Leah Lund or One Whole Health. And Louise will provide you with a link to a self-scoring brain chemistry assessment, because that really was the turning point for me when I realized I was neurotransmitter depleted, that there was a physical reason I was feeling all the things that I was feeling. That gave
Mhm.
me the leg up. That wasn't the complete journey, obviously. That was the
Mhm.
starting point, but it helped me know that it wasn't just who I am, that I wasn't just sad, I wasn't just somebody who had anxiety, I wasn't only an introvert, I wasn't following in my grandmother's footsteps. It helped me know. I really wish I could have, I wish I would have known this in time to let her know, that that wasn't
Uh-huh.
actually who she was either. She was just biochemically disadvantaged when it came to feeling good.
Mhm.
So I'm giving the very same self-scoring brain chemistry assessment that I use with my clients. That is a very reliable assessment of whether or not you're neurotransmitter depleted. It's self-scoring, so basically how it works, the more higher numbers you have, the more depleted you are in 4 main areas of neurochemical. And then
Mhm.
at the end of it, there is an invitation to speak with me about your assessment and talk about how to repair that if you're interested. You don't have to, though. You'll get your results if you just are curious and want to know.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you for that. Wow, what
You're
a
welcome.
powerful, beautiful gift. Thank you so much. Well, I know that our audience is going to jump on that, and I thank you for being here today. And we're going to do part 2 sometime.
Okay. And
Yeah, because
I would like to have you on my podcast. So
okay,
we can
awesome. I
keep
think
the
we
conversation going.
I think we'll keep, yes, we definitely will keep it going. So we want all of you to stay tuned out there. And thank you all, and have an awesome day.